All right, we're going to try this again. I had one of my 3 subscribers ask me a lot about bariatric multivitamins, so this one's just for you. So let's get to the point of it. Like, you need bariatric multivitamins if you've had bariatric surgery, because your stomach, let's just make it simple. Your stomach's the size of about an egg. There's no way you can get all the vitamins and minerals you need with that kind of restriction. Now, the restriction is necessary for weight loss. That's great, but we want to make sure that you're not just like losing weight, but you're actually thriving when you get to the other side of it. So we're very interested in we're very interested in making sure you're not getting a vitamin deficiency. I have seen vitamin deficiencies clinically. Fortunately, we've caught them before they become like real problems, but like, just for instance, B12 is a really big one. Your standard bariatric multivitamin will have somewhere around 45,000% of your daily intake of B12, but if you are vitamin B12 deficient, it can actually cause neurodegeneration. That means like your brain stop working. That's about as blue color as I can get it. So anyway, there are a slew of different vitamins and minerals that are required to be supplemented. You can do them individually, or you can buy bariatric specific multivitamins. Now, to do them individually, I'm driving. Clearly, you can see where I'm at. I'm driving. I do not have all of them memorized, but it's usually B12, B1, iron, and calcium on top of a standard one a day that you would take twice. Like a Centrum's would probably work. I'm not a giant fan of chewable one a day standard multivitamins because they're typically missing something. So I usually have to supplement on top of that. So getting back to it, the overarching authority for bariatrics in the U.S. is ASMBS. That is, I believe, the American Society for Metabolic and Bariatric Surgeries, something like that. They have their recommendations posted. You can go online and look at it. But they are the overarching authority for bariatrics in America. They have a website, and on their website, they list a bunch of companies that meet ASMBS standards for bariatric multivitamins, meaning that they have all of that goodness in one pill. Almost all of them. You can't add calcium to it, and I'll get to that in a minute. So they have, you can take a one a day bariatrics that has, like I said, 45,000% of your daily intake of B12, because bariatrics patients have a decreased ability to both take in enough B12 and absorb enough B12. So the reason that I bring all of that up is to say that there's about 200 companies out there claiming something to do with bariatric multivitamins. I have investigated a couple of them and realized that not all of them actually meet recommendations. So they're just claiming bariatrics. And after that, I just kind of secluded back to the ones that are on the ASMBS website. I am not sponsored by any of these. I don't make a single dime from mentioning them, but the biggest players out there are going to be Celebrate, the brand Celebrate, Bariatric Fusion, and Bariatric Advantage. A couple more that are really, those are the 3 biggest ones I know of as far as the amount of different products that they offer specifically in the multivitamin department. Bariatric PAL is quickly gaining, and they may have surpassed them. I mean, they are getting a lot of stuff. So that's Bariatric PAL. Bariatric PAL also has a forum, or like a Facebook kind of thing, a social media platform. Then there is Alatrol Labs, which makes Berry Liquid Force, which is a liquid gel capsule. So if you're having a hard time really dealing with these pills, because some of them, they hit your stomach kind of hard, these are liquid, so for some patients, they tolerate that one better. So that's Alatrol Labs, Berry Liquid Force. There is Bariatric Choice, which I believe offers some of the cheapest multivitamins you can get. ProCare Health, which would be the other one I thought would be the cheapest. And I think there's 1 or 2 more, but I can't remember them off the top of my head. Some of these are as cheap as $10 a month, which is roughly the same price as a standard multivitamin. Now, I mentioned earlier that you're also going to need calcium, and calcium cannot be put in these multivitamins. Calcium is a rather large mineral, for one, so if you were to have it all in one, it would be a massive pill. And two, you can only absorb so much calcium at any given time, like 600 milligrams, roughly. So, probably not a good idea to drive while speaking bariatrics, but whatever. So, you have to take those separately. On top of that, most people take a bariatric multivitamin with iron. Specifically, if you're in an age group in which requires iron, which is usually women before menopause, and young men, like, still within growing stages, teenagers. Those may require some amount of iron. You may end up needing iron after surgery because iron is in the blood. That's its primary purpose. That's its primary purpose, is to transport oxygen in the red blood cells. So that's where you're going to get most of your iron. So if you have any kind of a surgery, you're going to lose a little bit of blood. You may end up needing a iron supplement after that, or just your standard iron multivitamin, or maybe even an infusion. So, iron and calcium compete for absorption at the same spot in the small intestine. So if you take them together, you will absorb neither and be deficient in both. So you have to put some space in between your multivitamin with iron and your calcium. So most of my patients, it looks a little bit like they'll take a bariatric multivitamin in the morning sometime. 2 to 4 hours later, they'll take one calcium, 2 to 4 hours later for that, another calcium, 2 to 4 hours later after that, another calcium. So 3 calciums to meet your goal. If you get your bariatric, I'm used to doing this with a paperwork and a patient in front of me. You do those 3 different calciums. If you get them from any of those 3 websites I just mentioned, not 3 websites, any of those websites I mentioned on the ASMBS website, they are all going to come as calcium citrate. They will all have vitamin D, and they will all be roughly 500 milligram chewables. I'm a giant fan of the chewables. It's a capacity issue. When they sort of just melt in your mouth. You don't really swallow them. I mean, you sort of swallow them, but not really. And you can get these things in a million flavors. ProCare Labs even has them in lemon drop martini, gin and tonic, and strawberry daiquiri. I think it's them that also has a cinnamon roll. Bariatric Pal has it in candy apple. Celebrate brand has it in chocolate, caramel, island, a whole bunch of, they all have it in a bunch of fruit flavors. There's a lot of flavors out there. One of them has dark chocolate, and I've seen people literally dabbing their dark chocolate calcium into some peanut butter. I thought that was pretty funny. Have a little Mason makeshift Reese's. I'm also a fan of the chewables because a lot of times if you're using it like a caramel or chocolate, it can be that sweet fix. They're not 100% caramel and chocolate, but most people after bariatric surgery have some sort of altered sense of taste for sugar. About 75% of my patients can't handle sweets after the surgery. Sometimes that lasts for a couple days, sometimes a couple weeks, and I've had patients that last for months. Each their own. Anyway, so especially directly after the surgery, the chewable's better. If you want a over-the-counter, there is a brand called Citracal, which makes calcium citrate plus D3, which you need both. But it's a rather large pill, and it's 2 of them. And you have to take it twice daily, so that's 4 pills. So 4 pills, or what's the chewables? 3 chewables. Last little caveat to all of this, directly after the surgery, you're going to go through a full liquid phase where you're going to be taking a lot of protein shakes. I don't know how long your individual location does it. We do a full liquid diet for a week, and then kind of lean on protein supplements for quite a while. Well, your full liquid proteins, not all of them, but your Ensure Max, Boost Max, Premier Protein, Fairlife, and a few others, they all have, safety third, they all have 600 milligrams of calcium each. So if you drink 2 of them, you don't really need any more calcium. if you were deficient, you might need one. But they have 600, I think one even has 700 milligrams of calcium. They have vitamin D. They even have iron, which you would think competes with absorption, but they actually, well, it does compete for absorption. It just calcium wins. So you have three different, you have those different sources for calcium, and then as you get further along, you may actually be able to eat enough calcium. Calcium sources for no longer matter. For example, and let's get to that. How long do you need to take bariatric multivitamins? If you're gastric bypass, for life, period, end of story. Your stomach's the size of an egg for a long time, and when it gets bigger, it's the size of a baseball. I have seen patients with gastric bypass where we call it a pouch once your stomach has been, after the surgery, and I have seen patients where their pouch has grown back to a normal stomach size, but it's rare. It's rare, and to be honest, you're doing the surgery wrong if that's what you should be trying to keep your pouch small. And then for sleeves are the most likely, or not most likely. I don't say most likely like it's an assured thing, but there's if there was a chance of your stomach growing back to normal size, the sleeve has the greater chance of doing so. It is. I have had patients within 6 months normal stomach. Then I've also had patients that didn't really follow. I have a very long post-op plan, and in my location, you see me 3 or 4 times before the surgery and 3 or 4 times after the surgery, the same time you see the doctor. So you get a lot of education, and we really, really make sure that everything's going right and we're watching over you. So you get that much education. I don't have this happen very often, but I have had patients that just never come back, and they come back 6 months later and they only lost 20 pounds and they're eating like normal. I'm like, well, there's nothing I can do about that. I don't want to say that callously. I do feel sorry for that situation. Like they went through a lot of work for that. But anyway, sorry, I'm trying not to sound callous. So as far as bariatric multivitamins for sleeve, your stomach can go back to normal. If it goes back to normal size, if you're eating a normal size plate of food, then I don't technically think you need the multivitamins. You can be screened by your primary care provider or whoever's following you for the surgery, and if they notice deficiencies or you can adjust for there. I'd always ask to see a dietitian because that's what we do. But you should be following up with your bariatric doctor annually. We see ours annually for 5 years, and after that, it's up to the patient. It's 1 day per year in which you are guaranteed to have all your vitals checked. So why not go ahead and do it? But if your stomach's back to normal size, you could probably eat, a slice of cheese or a cheese stick. That's one calcium source. You can. Most people do protein shakes just in their daily activity outside of bariatrics. So something like that could also take care of half of it. Some of my patients, there's a few different brands out there that make like a cafe mocha flavored protein shake with caffeine, and so they just replace their morning coffee with that, and in doing so, it's cheaper than Starbucks, and in doing so, they're getting a good shot of multivitamins, or calcium, vitamin D, and protein all in one, and their caffeine. Some of my patients will use a vanilla protein shake and mix it with their coffee, and that way they're getting a very large, what would that be? That's not a latte, is it? I don't know. It's their morning caffeine drink, but they're doing that for the long term. All right, I can't think of anything else, but if you have any questions, please let me know. This wasn't my plan, but I have no problem helping people. It is my privilege to help people walk through this process, because this is not easy. There's a lot of misconceptions out there. So if you have any more questions, let me know.